I have been driving my 1987 Oldsmobile Forensic Cruiser wagon for almost a month now. Actually, today will be a month. And here's everything that has gone wrong with it. And I also want to touch up on some of the good things about these cars, because there is a lot of negativity out there for these J bodies, and for just the general consensus of the 80s and 90s GM front-wheel drive cars. These cars aren't really loved, and it's very hard to find other enthusiasts of these cars. But hey, you stumbled upon this channel, so I welcome you, and sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. For those of you that don't know, I'd like to give you some info on the car. I ended up with a Oldsmobile Forensic Cruiser with a 4-speed manual, and even in the first place. I picked this car up on December 26th of 2020 in the mountains of Virginia. It was just the day after Christmas, and my friends helped me along as we went through the icy roads and finally made it to a small town in Virginia where this car lay. It had been sitting for quite some time, but the owner had taken care of it. He would drive it around every so often and make sure the battery stayed charged and the wheels stayed inflated. After all, this was a car that he had gotten from his brother many years ago in Arizona. And he left an entire notebook and paperwork of every single thing done to this car. He really, truly did love this. And I still keep in contact with him this day, telling him what I've done to the car and what we're going to be doing next. So let's get on with how it's been to drive this car, just like it was driven many years ago. Going to the grocery store, to the gas station, to work, many miles on the Detroit freeways, going up I-75 to Sterling Heights, Dearborn Heights, and everything else you can think between, going up to Grayling to the lakes, and having fun on the little dirt roads that they have out there. So we'll start off with the interior and everything that needs to be done to it. After all, this is a work in progress. I won't say project, because really a project is never done, and I would like to get this car done eventually. We'll start off with what is wrong, and I'll tell you some things that I do really like about this car. First is the driver's side window. This does not go up or down. It's pretty much just fixed up because the regulator and the window have decided to get a divorce, and they don't want to see each other very much anymore. So when the regulator moves on, the window will fall into the depths. Kind of like a real relationship, honestly. Next, we'll move on to electronics. More specifically, the cluster and the radio. This has been one of the major problems on this car and actually driving it around. Kind of reminds me of those fire alarms from my middle school, or actually elementary school when I was a kid. Kind of blaring, right in your ear, but alerts you when the car's on. So we'll go across on the dashboard and show you everything that doesn't work. The battery light doesn't work. The oil pressure light kind of comes on. The speedometer is 10 miles off. The fuel gauge doesn't work. The temp light doesn't work. And the seatbelt light doesn't work. But hey, at least it shows you that the computer's connected. Down here, we have the AC controls. All of them work. Well, I think I need to have the car on to do it. But the controls do work. It has very nice heat. The AC does not work, though. I actually found a paper dated back to 2016 when this car only had 267,000 miles. And it said that the compressor was locked up. So I'd imagine that it still is because I did not find a receipt. But that's all right. Next is the radio. Though it does work, it only comes out through one speaker that is broken in half. So all those speakers will have to be replaced. None of the ones in the dashboard work. Underneath here, you can see. Very reminiscent of my Delta 88 Coupe that I had. That was an 87. Another strange thing with the radio is when I hit the headlight switch, you see the headlights came on. The radio shuts off. Though it doesn't really shut off. It's just that the screen goes blank. Now that I shut the lights off, turns back on. So there's that. Let's see here. With the glove box, that's actually fine. Though this isn't the correct one, these are supposed to be chrome because it is a Oldsmobile and not a Chevy. That's why the buttons are chrome and the door handles are chrome. They were trying to make this appear more, what would you call it, fancy. But I found one from a Cavalier and it works very well. So let's move on to the back. In the back here, everything seems to work. Windows go up and down. Only part is the seats. Being that this was an Arizona car, the sun has just absolutely destroyed the interior of this. And you see that the driver's side seat is different from the passenger seat. This one is from a Cavalier wagon that's in the Midwest, and the body was completely destroyed, but the interior was perfect. So I plan to take the other passenger seat from it and the driver's side, or the rear bench seat from that Cavalier and make good on that. Now, let's move on to where all the magic happens. All 86 horsepower of it. Honestly, it's probably like 23 now, after all these years. So this engine has given me quite the fit in working properly and cooling. And that's not its fault, though. Lots of systems were sitting. And as we know, a car's greatest weakness is time and sitting and not being used. Nothing's running through the system. Nothing's being lubricated. So, let's start. We'll go from left to right. First thing I replaced was the water pump. So I will try to show you. Right there. So I put a new water pump on that was leaking profusely. I also put on a new coolant reservoir. I picked this up from the Pontiac U-Pull. Very nice people there, and they do actually have a lot of old cars that they keep around for a very long time. So I was able to get one of those. Then we move on. I was able to find a new radiator fan that actually works. This was from a turbo Pontiac Sunbird. It's got like some extra shielding there on the fan. I'd imagine for the turbo that was there so it wouldn't melt the plastic. Next I did the valve cover and the spark plugs and wires. And then I did the brake master. We have a whole new brake master cylinder and proportioning valve on this. And boy, do these brakes work really well now. You can lock these suckers up in no time. And this thing will get you to a stop just like it did back in 1987, I suppose. Like new, pretty much. But there are some things wrong, even with all the work that I've put into it. I need to pick up a new radiator. The radiator is now gushing fluid. There's some type of crack down by the lower main, but I have one on the order. We're actually going to be putting a aluminum radiator in here. It should be quite good. Next is for the radiator fan. You see this wire here. I use that to jump the fan from this relay, or what this plug is supposed to go into this relay here, because that doesn't work. But I have ordered a fan controller to wire in. And one of the last things I want to do is put a new exhaust manifold on here. I actually got one from the previous owner. It was very kind to give me that part. And I have a new exhaust manifold gasket to come along with it. It's very nice. So that's everything that's wrong with it. So let me tell you some things that I really do like about this and how it's been driving in it every day. Now, one of the things I do like about this is the ride quality. You wouldn't think that from a Econo box from this era, but this car really does ride smooth. It takes corners very well, as well as, say, almost a Miata. No, it's not there, but it's pretty close. I did actually have a 1990 Miata with some Racing Beat sway bars I put on there. Not sure if that was a waste of money, but hey, it seemed to stiffen the car up. And this car is no exception. It's a pretty rigid chassis, being a unibody, and the way that they designed it, it seems not to flex very much. It probably does help with it being a wagon model. There's a lot more roof and a lot more metal conjoining to keep the structure nice and rigid. Another thing I love is, of course, the whole reason why I bought this car in the first place. That 4-speed manual. It is one of the nicest manuals I've driven in quite some time. Very responsive, very, I guess, notchy, if you will. It's very easy to find gears in it. Very easy to learn manual on if you're just beginning with it. For me, I haven't driven a manual car in, say 5 years since I had my Miata. So it was nice picking up on this again, after being so rusty after all these years. But yeah, that's another thing. Another thing I love is, this is actually from the Cavalier, but I love this seat. It really, really holds you firmly in there. A nice side bolstering, especially for a car this time. You can see from the Oldsmobile seat, though, very flat. You can just see the difference there. The Cavalier seat also sits further back. So for a bigger guy like me, my leg isn't touching the steering wheel anymore like it used to. Which is really handy when you try to make corners. To sum up the video, has it been worth daily driving a 1980s Econo box? I'd say it has. I've learned to slow down in life. I've learned to enjoy the simpler things. Even in a fuel-injected car, and I say that in quotation marks because it's really TBI. But even in this car, it's very easy to work on, and it's fun. That's the one thing that I've been missing working on cars, is that it was fun to do. That's why I loved working on the Trofeos. That's why I love working on my '66 Tornado. It's a lot of fun to build these cars, to show it off, to share the memories that people had with the past with these cars. I get a lot of emails, even to this day, about people that have, remember growing up in the back seat of these cars and enjoying it, being with their family, their grandparents. And that warms my heart. And I thank every one of you for always commenting and sending me your emails. Though I may not reply to them right away or even get to them, I want to say thank you. That lifts me up every day. So, if you're looking for an 80s car and you're not sure if it's right for you, give it a try. You might just surprise yourself and fall in love. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.